This episode may contain adult themes and explicit language. Listener discretion is advised.
Sorry.
What's the trick in making my love stick? What's the trick?
Hello, and welcome to the Film Critic and the Common Man podcast. While other film podcasts might just be able to lie, we always feel compelled to discreetly vomit. Each episode, we discuss a film from the perspective of a film critic and the perspective of a common man. We may not agree, but it certainly won't be boring. I'm your co-host, Ben Miller. I write about films for my own site, Ice Cream for Freaks. I'm a member of the North Texas Film Critics Association, as well as the International Film Society Critics. You can hear me guest on other pods as the David Thewlis of podcasting. And I am joined by my brother and common man co-host, a man who definitely uses large sweaters to hide his large muscles. Jake Miller, how you doing, buddy?
Doing good. How are you?
I'm doing awesome. It always, a lot of times, I know the conversation of these movies are going to be fun, Jace, based on how fun the movies are themselves. So I'm excited for this movie today, just because of how fun it is to watch. This is we're in November. A lot of new movies are coming out for December. In preparation for that, we are going to do Knives Out today, directed by Rian Johnson, written by Rian Johnson. You're ready. Written and directed by Rian Johnson, starring Daniel Craig, Ana de Armas, Chris Evans, and Jamie Lee Curtis, co-starring Michael Shannon, Don Johnson, Toni Collette, Lakeith Stanfield, Catherine Langford, Jaden Martell, and Christopher Plummer, among a bevy of others. But opening date on September 7th, 2019 at the Toronto International Film Festival, went wide November 27th, 2019, and made a ton of money. 165.4 million domestic, 146 million international, 311 million on a $40 million budget, which I imagine with the most of that was just to the cast. Did get an Oscar nomination for Best Original Screenplay, lost to Oscar winner Parasite. 3 Golden Globe nominations for Best Comedy, Best Actor in a Comedy, and Best Actress in a Comedy for Craig and de Armas. One of the rare crowd-pleasing box office hits that critics just could not get enough of. 97% on Rotten Tomatoes for critics, 92 for audience. It's one of those, it's really easy to just get into those murder mystery, fun murder mystery stuff kind of things. This is just one. I don't really see it on TV, but if it's ever on TV, I guarantee it's not one I'm going to pass up.
Oh yeah. No, yeah. Like you said, it's just fun to immerse yourself into that murder mystery. The note that I jotted down while rewatching this was Clue comparison.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, he was killed in the study with a knife by his own hand. Like, yeah, exactly. So
or was it a candle holder in the study?
And it's all just piecing it all together, and it's pieced together really nicely. I will give a quick plot summary of Knives Out. If you're the only person in the world who hasn't seen it, I don't know what's going on, but regardless, Knives Out is about the family of Harlan Thrombey, a wealthy murder novelist played by Christopher Plummer. I don't believe this is his last role, but it's almost his last role. He died shortly after the making of this movie, but regardless, wealthy mystery novelist attends his 85th birthday in his mansion. He's with his daughter Linda, played by Jamie Lee Curtis, and her husband Don Johnson, and then his other son Michael Shannon Walt runs the company, and Toni Collette is his daughter-in-law, Joni, who is married to one of the sons who had previously died. He is also aided by his longtime friend and nurse Marta, played by Ana de Armas. So it is 85th birthday. Harlan is found dead in his study with his throat slit. And these 2 cops show up, and essentially everybody knows it's a suicide. It's kind of no reason why, but it's a suicide. And along with the cops, Detective Benoit Blanc, played by Daniel Craig as Foghorn Leghorn / Hercule Poirot, whatever version of that is hired to investigate. and he kind of tries to piece together everything that happens. Everybody kind of has these conflicting reasons for why they would want Harlan dead or upset with him. Various things and the backhandedness of rich people. And Marta, the housekeeper, is kind of suspected of it. And it turns out very quickly in the movie, we find out that Marta accidentally gave him the wrong, instead of giving him, I guess she too much morphine. So too much morphine.
Yeah, some kind of opiate.
Yeah, so she accidentally, it seemed like she accidentally gave him too much morphine, which was going to kill him. So he slit his throat in order to protect Marta's mother, who was an illegal undocumented immigrant. So she's aware of this. The other thing is, if Marta lies, she throws up, which is kind of complicates things. So she talks about it in a way while kind of going around all this. So Marta and Blanc actually recruits Marta to kind of help her with the investigation, because he kind of seems that something's up. The family realizes that for some reason Harlan cut them all out of the will for various reasons and gave it all to Marta. All the more reason for them to be like, well, Marta killed him, right? And then Chris Evans' Ransom, who is the grandson of Harlan, comes in, and he kind of plays a role in all this. There's a lot of machinations and all this kind of stuff going on. It turns out at the end of it, everybody had their motives, but Ransom was the one who actually switched the doses and caused the overdose, which actually wasn't an overdose. It gets kind of complicated the more you talk about it, but Ransom's the one kind of behind it all. He tries to kill Marta in front of the cops and Blanc, but he uses a trick knife accidentally, and he is arrested, and Marta has the house and wins essentially in the end. It's a nice little, as I was talking about it, the more I went into it, I was like, man, I could spend 30 minutes just talking about the plot and how it all pieces together. It's a very complicated plot, but I guess that's kind of the fun of it. Like,
and the thing about the overdose, I mean, they figure out that Marta didn't even overdose him.
No, she's such a good nurse. She can feel the difference between the good stuff and the bad stuff. Didn't even see it. And
Daniel Craig's character says, you're so experienced, you noticed a slight difference in the viscosity. And
it's such a fun little note of like muscle memory and experience when it comes to a job. Like your example, I use you as an example. As a police officer, drawing your gun unconsciously is something you got very used to, I imagine. And same thing with her. Like she knows how to pick it up and draw it and do all this stuff blindfolded just because of repetitive notions. It's such an interesting thing, having the fact that Marta wins at the end and is good for everything. It's nice because she's essentially, the reason she did it is because she's nice and she's good at her job. Like she doesn't. It's a little. There are parts of me that's like, well, it's a little rose colored that the good, nice person who's good at her job gets everything. But I mean,
but that's still kind of the way you want it to turn out, especially considering Harlan, I think he recognizes that his family's just a bunch of bloodsuckers.
Absolutely.
And all he is to them is an inheritance.
Absolutely.
And Marta actually cares for him.
Yeah.
And he selects her as someone who's actually deserving of it.
Yeah.
And
there's a
nice justice to it.
There's a fun little thing I noticed on this second watch, knowing how it ends and how kind of everybody reacts to it. There's a couple things about Marta. It's like a couple different family members. So Marta didn't go to Harlan's funeral, but a couple family members said, I wanted you there, but I was outvoted. Like, okay. I was the good one. They also, everybody keeps saying she's from a different country. Guatemala and Colombia.
I know you're from Honduras, but
exactly. Nobody knows where she's from. But it's such a good, like it's such the disrespect. And there's also, the Rashomon type framing device of what happened that night from different people's perspectives is really interesting. Like the first time, whenever Jamie Lee Curtis describes it, like the birthday cake's going down and they're like shoulder to shoulder with Harlan. And then Michael Shannon tells him he's shoulder to shoulder. And, it's all about them. And, we're talking in my perspective, the hero of your own story essentially is everybody's perspective of it. But it all comes together. I mean, murder mysteries, somebody's dead. It shouldn't be happy and fun, but man, this is just such a blast of a movie.
Yeah. And I think that's what makes it fun is really, I think, Harlan recognizes, he sees the writing on the wall that, his family's just out for his riches and everything. And all the other characters, as you just described, are complete narcissists.
Even the nice one is a turd.
Right. Yeah. And I think what makes this fun is really Harlan turns it into a game.
Absolutely.
That he knows Marta will win and they will all lose.
Yeah. And
so it's his last game.
Yeah, he's like, it's a mystery. That's a cool little thing. Yeah, all these cool little fun parts. And him writing murder mysteries and talking about whenever he just assumed he is about to overdose, he's like, that's a really interesting way to kill somebody. Like he's writing it. And even as he knows he's about to die and kill himself, he's very calm and being like, it's fine. It's fine. This is what it is. I need to protect what I've done now. I've already, and he knows Marta's in the will and Marta's going to be taken care of. He's like, but everybody's going to freak out. So I need to be able to protect her in a different way. The fun of I think the big part of the fun is between Daniel Craig and Chris Evans. It's not them having the most fun. It's they're having so much fun not being James Bond or Captain America. Especially Daniel Craig, who near the end of his run as James Bond was really sick of the character. Was like, I can only imagine. It's physically exhausting. He's getting up there in age, trying to stay in that good a shape is one thing. It's a lot of work to stay in that kind of shape. Those I'm sure those movies and it's, the press and all that's a real mess. And he is having a blast in this movie. He's having so much fun and it's so contagious whenever somebody's having fun. Like just hearing him say the words, it's like, what were the words overheard by the Nazi child masturbating in a bathroom? Like just that,
right.
It just rolls off his tongue. He's so happy to say those words. And Chris Evans is the same way. He has much more love for his character of Captain America, but at the same time, Captain America is such the ideal of nice, and Ransom is such a shit.
Yeah. Variety's the spice of life. If you just do the same thing, it's Groundhog Day.
Sure.
So, if you can mix it up and take a break from the normal, I can see how that'd be a ton of fun,
And then not to mention like just Chris Evans in general, it's like, I'm Captain America. I'm square jawed. I'm handsome. Everybody in the world in interviews seems to love me. I've never heard a bad word of press about him. He seems like he's a nice guy. And then he gets to be just the most entitled work. He specifically says, nobody calls me Hugh. Only the help calls me Hugh. It's like saying that out loud. God, how much the help. Just saying, just makes your skin crawl. You're just like, what a terrible person.
Yeah.
And that Evans Craig infection kind of goes down. Like Toni Collette's having a blast being at what she's doing. Jamie Lee Curtis is pretty straightforward, but is still, you could tell she's having a lot of fun with the character. Plummer, even being 85, still fast and still doing great in there.
Oh yeah.
The opposite is Ana de Armas, who is completely serious the whole movie.
Yep.
And Marta in general, it's kind of the thing that works. Everybody can't be having fun. She is like, This is a terrible situation. I'm terrified. Do you have a lot of Ana de Armas history?
No, I mean, as far as I know, I think this is the only one I can say I've watched her in. I mean, unless you can enlighten me and remind me, but
no. I mean, she started out in non-English speaking films earlier in her life, Spanish films or things like that. She kind of got a little bit of stuff. She was in a movie called Knock Knock, where her and another lady are terrorizing Keanu Reeves. It didn't really get very good reviews. She was in a movie. She was in the Blade Runner sequel, Blade Runner 2049. Really good in that one. And then Knives Out. And after Knives Out, it was like, okay, she's going to be famous now. And she has been. And she was just in Blonde as Marilyn Monroe. She was spectacular in a really rough movie. She's really, really good as Marilyn Monroe. The movie is could be an acquired taste or terrible, depending on who you talk to. But I mean, she does such a good job in this movie. She's so vulnerable and very, you're cheering the whole time. You're like, yeah, get that money.
Yeah. It's kind of like, all the other characters are allowed to have fun because they have the confidence of
this will all work out. Yep.
And that, the privilege.
Yes.
Going into it. And she's the only unprivileged one that really isn't expecting the money.
Yeah.
Isn't going after it, but
barely knows how to react when she has it. She's like, this seems odd. But at the same time, one of my favorite little scenes is whenever Michael Shannon shows up to confront Marta outside of her apartment. And she's like, I know, we want to take care of you. If you renounce this, we have the resources. And she goes, well, thank you for that. But those resources are now my resources. So I can do all that. Like, yeah. It's like,
I'll take care of you.
Yeah. Yeah. So in other words, she might be ignorant, but she's not stupid. Like, yeah. So very, very rootable character. A beautiful woman who they really keep under layers and layers and layers of clothing. She is pretty much everybody in this movie. Nobody's exactly like revealing. This is, in fact, my opening about having to wear sweaters. Apparently, one of the reasons they kept putting Chris Evans in big sweaters is because he was still in Captain America shape. So, right. So they're like, well, we can't have this guy just be jacked at all times.
Yeah.
So, a lot of different kind of stuff that's going on there. So if you look at the rest of the ensemble, there's a lot of different people in it. Is there somebody specifically that stuck out to you that you're like, I really like this guy?
A guy I really like, and I couldn't tell you what his name was, but he was in the Waco miniseries.
Yes, that's Michael Shannon. Yeah, so it's okay. Michael Shannon who plays Walt, the eldest Thrombey son. Yes, Michael Shannon is a wacky man.
Yeah,
but so who was he in the Waco miniseries? Was he one of the cops?
He was the negotiator.
He was the negotiator.
Yeah, he was the FBI negotiator, and he was at odds with the FBI tactical team. And he was like, "Hey, let me try to talk through this," and they were just wanting to raid it.
Oh, okay.
So, but yeah. Very, very good in that.
He's really good in a lot of stuff, and you don't realize how much stuff you've seen Michael Shannon in until you go back and watch movies. You're like, is that Michael Shannon? Like he's in. He was in Groundhog Day, actually. Ironically, he was the young couple that Bill Murray gives WrestleMania tickets to. Uh-huh. He's the male member of that one. Yes. So he's one of the hundreds of guys in Pearl Harbor. He was Eminem's. He was in 8 Mile. He was the one messing around with Eminem's mom. He was the bad guy in Kangaroo Jack. Bad Boys 2, World Trade Center. I mean, there's first movie I ever remember him in is a movie called Bug, a very, very strange movie, but he's exceptional in it. And then he kind of came to prominence as like, oh, Michael Shannon's the guy. He's like the best actor that nobody really knows about. And then he was in a movie with Kate Winslet and Leonardo DiCaprio called called Revolutionary Road, got a surprise Oscar nomination. And then kind of kept popping up in other stuff after that. He did a lot of independent stuff. A movie I know you like, Mud. He was popping up in that. Played Richard Kuklinski in the film version of The Iceman. It really went nowhere, but I mean, same thing.
I read that book.
Yeah, so he played that in the movie version.
But I hadn't seen it.
I don't think anybody has. Don't feel bad.
Okay.
Was the bad guy in Man of Steel? And you're like, yeah, now Michael Shannon's just kind of like, he was in Man of Steel, and he's like, okay, now you have money and you can be as weird as you want to be. And boy, he has leaned into that. He was, so all sorts of stuff. Gets another Oscar nomination a couple of years ago. Still in a lot of stuff. Still will continue to be in a lot of stuff. I really like him as well because he's like, he seems like he has no sense of humor, but his comic timing is so good.
Yeah. I just like his style in this, in that, I mean, he's not a super dynamic character or anything like that, but there's just, I don't know. There's something in the way he plays that character that I think I think he nailed it.
He has a walking boot for no reason.
It's never explained. And
yeah, it's just kind of one of those, just like a weird. I was a big fan of Don Johnson. Everything Don Johnson did in this movie, I really liked him. He was just like, he played for so long in his career. He's like, I'm the suave leading man. And then as he got older, he's like, I'm going to sink into more character work. And he's fun, like really a lot of fun in this.
Yeah. And he was in Django Unchained, right?
Yes, he was. Yes. Really good in Django Unchained. He was, and he had some of the best lines.
He was fucking hilarious in that too.
He has a great sense of humor. Yeah.
I can't see shit.
Can't see shit in this thing. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. No,
can't see fucking shit.
Yeah. So he has and gets one of the few F words in this movie too. So it's, it's like, all talking. It's like, yeah, who the fuck is that? And that's whenever they introduce. Yeah. In general, the movie is just so much fun, and all this kind of stuff happens. Like every little character is always fun. I always I've talked about this before. Every little character that pops up, like the lawyer who pops up talking about the Slayer rule and all this kind of stuff. And then Don Johnson goes like, hey, you've been useless. He's like, thanks. And then it goes and fun little trivia fact for you. The lawyer is played by Frank Oz. If you don't know who Frank Oz is, he's a director. He's done a lot of stuff. He's, the movie, The Score with Edward Norton and Robert De Niro, has done some comedies, did Dirty Rotten Scoundrels. He is best known as Yoda. He is the voice of Yoda from the original, from Empire Strikes Back.
Voice of Yoda, he is.
He's the one. He's so Frank Oz, a long storied history, but I mean, so are you familiar with Rian Johnson in general outside of this movie as a director?
Not at all.
So he's a really interesting guy. He's a very interesting personality because he's not afraid to engage with fans who are like, hey, I think your work sucks. He goes, cool, I appreciate that. Like so right before this, he made a Star Wars movie. It's probably one of the best Star Wars movies, but a lot of people really, really hated it. And it really alienated people from it. And essentially, he's like, they thought he was going to make a bunch of Star Wars movies. And they said, no, we didn't really like the reaction to it. He's like, okay, well, can I have money to make a movie? It's like, yeah. And he made this.
Oh, wow.
So it's kind of worked out. The style in general of this movie is very like, how would you kind of characterize it? Because there's not exactly, it's.
I don't really know the words to put on it, but it definitely captures the murder mystery feel.
Yes.
As far as a big opulent mansion, this huge estate, rich people. I mean,
yeah.
It gets the setting right, definitely.
Yes.
With the film,
yeah. Go ahead. Sorry.
The way they film it and the setting and everything.
There are some movie dork things in this movie I really like. Whenever Marta gets the finds out she's the sole owner of the will, she walks outside and the camera comes in with a steady cam and it's nice and steady. And then as soon as the rest of the family follows her, the camera gets off the steady cam and it's shaky. So it's really, he does a lot of stuff like that to keep you off balance. And he always works well with ensembles. I have seen every single Rian Johnson movie. He only has directed, I think, 5 movies. The first movie he ever directed was this movie called Brick. Brick was this movie. It's set in high school. It's kind of a noir, like a 1950s type style movie, but it's set in a modern day high school, but everybody talks like they're in a Raymond Chandler novel. It's very, very strange. It takes a while to get on the same page with. Then he makes another movie called The Brothers Bloom, which it's probably his least seen. Have you seen the movie Looper with Joseph Gordon-Levitt and Bruce Willis?
Yes.
Where they go back, and that's him too.
Okay.
So I mean, and then he makes the Star Wars movie and then Knives Out. So he has everything. Looper was a pretty serious movie, but it still had really interesting ideas. Yeah.
Well, I guess he just, obviously only doing like 5 films or something like that. He's not going to have that name recognition, but this is, I mean, just from watching Knives Out, this has got to be his best one. And obviously you pointed out the numbers. The audience agrees.
The money, the fact that it made as much money off of the budget that it did. I think it more than anything, it was, these are kind of old timey movies. Like right after Knives Out came out, I believe the first Murder on the Orient Express remake by Kenneth Branagh came out at the same time. That much less well received, also made a ton of money. So it's not surprising. Like, it's just kind of the trying to unraveling all that mystery yourself is the fun part.
Yeah, I love like the murder mysteries, the whodunits, unraveling, what happened.
Did you have a feeling the first time you watched it, it was like, okay, this is Chris Evans, or did you have like more of a pit, like, I don't really know who actually is involved?
Well, most of the family characters are so unlikable that everyone's kind of a suspect. And they all have a motivation, obviously.
Sure. Yeah.
They all have a monetary motivation. So everyone's kind of suspect.
Yeah.
But when it gets down to the point where Marta thinks she overdosed Harlan, I'm like, she didn't do it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
it's just everyone else is suspect.
We know who it isn't. And at the same time, the cool thing about the movie is Marta is still also working out of her own self-interest. She's trying to somewhat sabotage Blanc as they're kind of going through things, walking through footsteps, all this kind of stuff. She knows kind of what's up. And it's like, oh, that little piece of wood, she throws it away. The dog brings it back. And so the respect that this movie has for the unseen parts of a rich family is really interesting. Like the entire scene where Daniel Craig goes up to Harlan's mother, who is somehow still alive, Juanetta Thromby, he comes up and says, like, I would apologize for the loss of your son. I'm sure I'm probably the first person to say that. And I will sit here and I'm really enjoying your company. And whenever you would like to talk to me, I will be here to talk. It's like, it's so gentle and such a kind of a heartwarming thing. And you're like, oh, that's nice. I like Nana. Like maybe like it. So it didn't start bad. Like Nana's great. Harlan's fun. where did it sour? And it kind of, you look at the family of, well, where did this go wrong?
Yeah. And I think, what is this character's name? Benoit?
Blanc. Yes. Blanc. Yeah.
Blanc. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. He kind of enters and I think immediately identifies this family's fucked up.
Absolutely.
someone needs to talk to the old lady. Like, you know, like, yeah, I think he immediately recognizes that. And kind of during the course of his investigation, I think he brings out more and more that highlights, he kind of shoves it in their face. Like,
yeah.
You people are shits.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know?
Yeah, it kind of runs the gamut of just like, you suck for this reason, you suck for this reason, you suck for this reason. And even not, he was like, even the little things, like he doesn't care about the kid, but he's like, he calls him a Nazi child. And like, it's like just
a Nazi child.
Nazi child masturbating in the bathroom. Yeah. It's and the funny thing is it's whenever Blanc is first introduced, he's in the back of a room and all he does is hit piano keys.
Yeah.
Do you know why he does that? Do you have any idea why he does that? So Lakeith Stanfield is the one of the detectives sitting there and interviewing. Every time he hits the ding, he asks the apparent whoever he's talking to when they got to the party. So every time they're talking and it's like talking about anything, dink. And about what time did you arrive? And it's a really, that's another thing. It's a fun little like like I imagine police detectives and private investigators probably don't really have much of collaboration in real life. No. Did you have any sort of experience with any sort of private investigator?
Very limited. I mean, probably my most experience with a private investigator was just getting calls on a suspicious vehicle sitting down the street.
Oh yeah, sure. So
they're investigating something on a divorce
or an
deal.
Affair. Yeah, it's something like that.
Insurance fraud or something like that, you know.
That makes sense. Yeah.
You know, and usually I'd pull up. Yeah, we got a call on a suspicious vehicle. Oh, I'm a private investigator. You know, they're like sitting there with binoculars, like
6 bags of chips in the passenger seat, like
subtle. Just park 2 houses down, and no one will notice anything.
It's very much a movie thing where private investigators in movies are much more refined and professional, and probably have a steady income. Like in reality, being a private investigator is probably like, I have one case every 6 months, and it's a guy who wants to catch his wife in the act of cheating. And that's.
Yeah. And yeah, it's kind of like being a bondsman.
Yeah. Yeah. It's not like exactly
a bounty hunter. I mean, it's, I don't know. And I mean, someone's got to do it, but
sure. Not exactly glamorous.
It's not Daniel Craig with a Southern accent blowing the roof off of everything, you know?
Okay. So that's my other question. I forgot about this. Do you buy Daniel Craig's Southern accent?
Yeah.
It's just,
but I think it's an old school Southern accent.
Yeah.
It's a retro Southern accent. Like, I don't think there's a ton of people still maybe that heavy of an accent.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, we're from the South, but not that portion of the South.
No, different type of South. Yeah.
Yeah. So
it's very much a guy standing on a porch with thumbs in his suspenders talk.
Oh yeah.
Like,
or
it's the equivalent of like how people from Boston don't sound like Katharine Hepburn. It's right. Or the Kennedys. It's a more modern version of it these days. And I think that's kind of the purpose. I mean, even if you look at it, I mean, there is technology in the film. Obviously, people are on cell phones and all these various things, but it is a very like retro type film. I mean, the security cameras are on VHS tapes. I mean, this old mansion, it's all about books, and it's like there's no like smoking gun and all that kind of stuff. It's just it's almost lost in time.
Well, and I think you can kind of see that Harlan's an old school dude.
Yeah.
And I mean, he's not into the technology and all that kind of stuff, you know. But now speaking about Daniel Craig's accent in this, it reminded me of, I don't know if you've ever seen it. There was an SNL skit long time ago where there was a guy that looked very much like the KFC. What's
Colonel
his name?
Sanders. Colonel Sanders.
Colonel Sanders.
Yeah.
He looks very much like that. And he's got that Southern accent. His name is Colonel Angus.
Okay.
And as he's explaining stuff, he's like, oh, if you need anything, you just come over here to Cunnilingus.
just a way to keep saying Cunnilingus over and over again.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, Cunnilingus. It always makes the women happy. Everyone's always happy with Cunnilingus. It's like, and if you ever get tired of me, you just tap me on the head and say that's enough. From old Cunnilingus.
Oh, no, it's the easiest joke you can possibly make. I mean, it's all this. That's great. Well, let's take a quick break and then we'll come back. All right. So the funny thing about this, the first time I ever watched this movie, I was actually at your house. I was visiting, I think, for Christmas, and me and my wife watched together. And I think you and your wife had a slightly different circumstance.
Yeah, we well, that was our first introduction. That's the first time I watched it. Was on that occasion. But it was a great little Christmas trip because I think well, first me and my wife got into a big ass argument and made everything real awkward.
Yeah, well.
And then we all got violently ill from the flu.
It was great times. Yes.
Oh yeah. Yeah. So we were sick as dogs. But yeah, that's the first time I watched it was here with you guys.
So not only whenever time you lie, you have to throw up. Every time you think of this movie, you're just automatically assumption it's constantly vomiting, feeling terrible.
Yeah. I will always have an association with being sick. This movie.
It's funny, if you think about it. Can you imagine what hell your life would be if you couldn't yell, if you couldn't lie, and you had to, you automatically vomited every time? I mean, I'm not talking about like, oh, you have to say like not big lies or anything like that. That I understand all that part, but man, you couldn't have little bitty things and stretch the truth, and then all of a sudden you just vomit everywhere.
Right? Yeah. It's
you have a weak enough stomach as it is.
I do. Yeah. I do. Not from lying though, but I can do that just fine.
Did the throwing up in this movie get you at any point? No, it's not really like some people I know.
Well, when she pukes right on Chris Evans.
Oh yeah, right at the end, you're just like, ugh.
And there's like chunks on him and stuff. Yeah. Yeah, I was like,
good times. All right. Well, Jake, every week I go through the filmography of a filmmaker and put Jake's cinematic knowledge to the test. It is time for Poll for a Dumbass. Today, we are going through the filmography of the man himself, the fifth James Bond. This is Mr. Daniel Craig. He's been working for a long time, was in a lot of early stuff that nobody's ever heard of. He made his debut in 1992 in a film called The Power of One. We're not counting that one. He was grand totally, I think he was 24 years old at the time. Did a couple small things. The first thing of any note that he ever did, how about the film from 1998 starring Cate Blanchett, Elizabeth?
I don't think so.
It's I don't hate it, but it's not one of the, like, Cate Blanchett's really good in it, but a lot of people are like obsessed with that movie, and it's just not really for me. He just plays a very small part in it. It's just the first time I've ever been like, hey, look, Daniel Craig. As far as American audiences, the first time they ever really saw him was in a video game movie. How about Lara Croft Tomb Raider, starring Angelina Jolie?
I saw
that's the first one. So I have seen that movie, and I remember absolutely nothing about it except Angelina Jolie looking great. That's all I remember.
That is all I remember from it.
Yeah, I mean, aesthetically, she looks great. She shoots guns, and that's about it. And you say, hey, do you know Daniel Craig's in that? I'm like, really? I didn't know that. How about the first time I know for a fact you ever saw Daniel Craig in a movie? 2002's Road to Perdition.
Dude, one of my absolute. I love it.
We got it on the schedule to do, so we're gonna do an episode
on our schedule. So I won't get too far into it right yet, since we already got it on our schedule. But man, that is a banger.
He does a great job in it. He kind of plays the the ransom version in 1920s Chicago gangster.
I was fixing to say that's the antithetical thing compared to this movie, is like he's kind of the little shit.
Yeah. He's still in his 30s. Kind of got that. He's not exactly like, I wouldn't think of him as handsome in that movie. He's almost gruff and like, but I mean, he's such a slime in that movie. We'll get into it during the Roads of Perdition episode, but we'll save it for that. So okay, so you're on the board. Okay, yep. So I'm not optimistic you haven't seen this, but I think you would like it. This is the movie that everybody kind of points to and is like, this is the reason he got James Bond. It's a movie called Layer Cake. It's a British gangster movie. He's kind of a low-level gangster, and him just kind of navigating being a drug dealer gangster. It's really stylish, good movie. Really a lot of interesting things. I highly recommend you check that out. Another movie I know for a fact you have seen. How about 2005's Best Picture nominee, Munich?
Yeah.
He plays a South African, I believe. Or a South African Jew, or I don't think he plays an Israeli.
I don't remember.
I don't either, but he was really dynamic and interesting in that movie. It's the first, he's likable, but kind of in a slime way too.
If he is South African in that movie, I have heard that like the South African accent is like one of the hardest to nail down.
I've heard the same thing. I've heard it's really tough. There's just a lot of eccentricities to it. I have a couple of friends from South Africa, and they speak English to me like regular American English that sounds just like you would talk to somebody. But if they talk to each other, it sounds like they both have lisps, and they start having weird words coming out of nowhere. So it's really bizarre. All right. So he's in Munich. He's in Road to Perdition, does Layer Cake. People kind of know who James Bond, who he is. Everybody knows who he is because he's the new James Bond in Casino Royale. Yes.
I've seen that. So
I know you're not much of a franchise guy, but I think there's a couple chances we got for it's the modern Bond. It makes sense. Right. So after that, anybody who plays James Bond suffers from the same problem. As soon as you're James Bond, it's hard to be anything but James Bond. Yep. Sean Connery is the only one who really was able to be like, I'm not James Bond anymore. And everybody's going to have to live with that. So right after that, they kept kind of throwing him everywhere, seeing what happens. He's in this movie called The Golden Compass, based on a series of children's books. I'm not sure if you'd seen it. I'm not surprised. It was a big box office dud. A girl rides polar bears. But regardless, I'm not surprised. How about probably the least liked of his Bond films, Quantum of Solace?
I don't think I saw that one.
I like that one. That one, the bad guy in that one is the little squirmy French guy from Munich. So in Munich, whenever Matthew Almaric is his name, in Munich, in order to get the names of the terrorists, they go to a French guy who sells them the names.
Okay.
He's the bad guy in Quantum of Solace. So it's an interesting movie. It's got some interesting things about it, but there's a reason it's kind of like not really. It's kind of, the action's not very good. Anyway, moving on. How about the World War II film Defiance?
Defiance. Remind me.
Defiance. He is him and his brothers, which is Liev Schreiber and Jamie Bell. They are Nazi. Yeah, they're where are they from? They live in the forest. They're Jewish. living in Germany, and they moved to the forest and are fighting off Nazis, like a militia.
Guerrilla tactics.
Yes.
Yeah. I have seen that.
I've seen it once, thought it was okay, and I have not remembered it since.
I remember liking it. Of course, I mean, I'm a World War II guy.
Yeah, it's true.
Kind of anyways, but
it's a cool story. I think they dumbed it down a little bit to, like, for PG-13 audiences. Like, it's not exactly like visceral for a World War II movie, but it's not bad. I'm not surprised you've seen that. Okay, so you have seen Defiance. Now, a movie, if you've seen this, I'll be shocked. Our mom loves this movie, Cowboys and Aliens.
No.
Okay. It was so a lot of times, they essentially tried to do multiple franchises on top of each other. So you're already doing Bond. Let's try to kickstart another one. And they tried this movie called Cowboys and Aliens, exactly like it sounds. Not a very good movie, not very enjoyable. I don't think he really enjoyed doing it either. That it did not make a whole lot of money. Flip side, a different type of franchise, but entirely different type of movie. How about David Fincher's super dark film, The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo?
Yes.
That is a movie that is really disturbing, really dark, does some really bad things, and I've seen it way too many times for as vicious it is.
Yeah, that was a one watcher for me.
Oh yeah, you don't want to revisit Girl with the Dragon Tattoo.
Yeah, I was like, that's fine.
No,
I did that.
I get it. It's based on a Finnish film and book series. They initially were going to make the rest of the series, but I guess the movie didn't make as much money as they wanted it to make. And then Daniel Craig got busy with other stuff, obviously. So goes back to Bond in his most successful Bond film. How about 2012 Skyfall?
Yes, I saw Skyfall.
That's the one with Javier Bardem, probably one of the best Bond villains as well. Very rewatchable. How about the one immediately after that with Christoph Waltz, Spectre?
No, I don't think so.
It's very, very not good. It's surprising for a Bond movie. It's like, it should be better, and it's just not. It's just kind of the downside of, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't.
Yeah, Bond movies are very hit and miss.
Yeah, like sometimes you got like Casino Royale, all timer, and then you got anything in the 80s from like the late 70s or something like that. All those Roger Moore ones, I don't like any of those.
Yeah, I don't really like the Roger Moore ones.
Pierce Brosnan had some stinkers.
Yeah, there's a couple decent ones, I guess, from Pierce Brosnan, but yeah, that was kind of a tough era.
Yeah.
They're just kind of all over the place.
Yeah, they really are. So some are some really terrible movies, and some are some really good ones.
And obviously, whenever you have that amalgamation of different actors, directors, producers, all that kind of stuff, you're going to get
scattershot quality. Yeah. Makes sense. Okay, so the first example of Daniel Craig having a blast not being James Bond is a movie called Logan Lucky. I'll be surprised if you've seen it.
I don't believe so.
So Logan Lucky is, I believe it's on Amazon Prime, because I think that's where it first debuted. Logan Lucky is a kind of a heist movie where Channing Tatum and Adam Driver are brothers, and they want to rob a Charlotte Motor Speedway, and they recruit Daniel Craig, who is a criminal in prison, to help them with that. And a lot of different people in it. Katie Holmes is in it. Dwight Yoakam shows up. Sebastian Stan, Hilary Swank, all these different people. It's a lot of interesting things coming together. A lot of fun. Really a lot of interesting, fun times. If you ever get a chance, go seek out Logan Lucky. And Daniel Craig is having a blast not being James Bond. Leads right into Knives Out, obviously, 2 years later. And how about his last incarnation as James Bond in last year's No Time to Die?
No, I didn't see that one.
It's very, very good. It's very good.
Okay.
It has a nice fitting ending to his career as James Bond. Ana de Armas is in it for 10 minutes, steals the whole movie. She blows everybody away. Rami Malek is the villain. Really good. I highly suggest go seek out No Time to Die, one of the better Bond movies. And then that leads us up to where we are today. His next movie comes out next month, and he is Benoit Blanc in Glass Onion, a Knives Out mystery. The next one comes out on Netflix at the end of next month.
Okay. Maybe you mentioned it to me or I heard it somewhere else, but I heard they were, doing
another monster cast. It's Daniel Craig, obviously, as Blanc. No returning characters, but Edward Norton, Janelle Monáe, Leslie Odom Jr., Catherine Hahn, Kate Hudson, Dave Bautista, Ethan Hawke. And then a couple cameos, Angela Lansbury's last movie, but
Really?
So another $40 million movie that is, I say it's on Netflix, so I don't know how much money it's going to make. It is going to have a little theatrical run, but a lot of the reviews so far, people have seen it, love it just as much as the old one. I'm sure it'll be a blast. So, I thought you were going to do way worse on Daniel Craig than I thought. Not so bad. You did, let's see here. Lara Croft, Tomb Raider, Road to Perdition, Munich, Casino Royale, Defiance, Girl with Dragon Tattoo, Spectre, and Knives Out. So 8 out of 6, half and half. So not too bad. Perfectly respectable.
Oh, thanks. It's only, I got a 50.
Well, as far as movie going is like, you're a normal person. You're not a psycho like me who's just like, well, I only got 8 Best Picture Oscar winners to go, so that type of thing.
That's true. Yeah, I am not a psycho like you.
All right, Jake, I think it is about that time. Each episode, instead of me steering the conversation, Jake peppers me with a series of questions that I must answer truthfully. Sometimes it's just trivia. Sometimes it is not. It is that time.
You're in the hot box.
I am in the hot box, and I have the glow of warm light to get me there. What you got for me, buddy?
When's the last time you threw up?
That's a great question. I remember this. I had a sinus thing a couple weeks ago, and was brushing my teeth, and I was brushing my tongue, gagged, and I couldn't keep it together and threw up in this. I was like, I just brushed my teeth. I had to throw up in the middle of brushing my teeth, but yeah, it's definitely not something I have a history of doing a lot, but one of those things.
Yeah. Mine was yesterday.
Oh, really? Great. Good times.
Again, it was a sinus thing, and
Sure.
I was trying to work and
just
I couldn't breathe.
Got stuck. Yep. I'll tell you a quick story. So one time I had bronchitis, and I found out that if you don't move, bronchitis was fine. Like if you stay still, you don't really get upset or nothing really happens. You just cough a little bit. So I decided I can go to a movie because I don't have to move. And I wasn't really eating anything. So I got a cherry icy and a package of Twizzlers. I don't even remember what I watched, but I ate it and drank it, whatever. Go back home and I have to take my dog out, and my dog's taking its time to pee. So I'm having to walk around with this dog, and I start coughing, and I cough and I cough and cough, and I eventually throw up. And I look on the ground, and whatever dog came behind me was in for a treat, because all it was icy and chewed up Twizzlers. And that's as far I cannot recommend a vomit more than Twizzlers and cherry icy. So
not bad coming up.
No, not bad. Consider it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Better than Mexican food, probably.
Yes.
All right. Because that's what I dumped off yesterday.
Oh no. Oh God.
All right. So are there any other murder mystery, or I call them like Clue-like movies that come to mind whenever you watch this?
So Clue, being the film in general, is the one that I always think of, because it's yes, there's dead people, and yes, it's that kind of stuff, but it's still super fun and everybody's having fun with it. Tonally, that's probably as close as it gets. There is some other stuff as far as murder mystery I really like. There was a movie that just came out called See How They Run. It's fine. It's enjoyable, kind of that same tone. Most of the murder mystery stuff isn't fun. Mostly it's like you know,
A murder investigation.
A murder investigation, the actual seriousness of it. Exactly. So you think of that kind of stuff. There's been some stuff recently, like a movie, A Simple Favor, with Blake Lively and Anna Kendrick. It's interesting. It has a lot of interesting stuff like that. Gone Girl is kind of in the same realm.
Yeah.
And obviously super serious, but kind of has that to it. How about a movie I think you like, Wind River?
Yes.
Yes.
Yep.
This is a good one. One that just came out. It's called Confess Fletch, based on the Fletch books, with John Hamm, kind of investigating a murderer. He shows up in an apartment. He's a private investigator again. He shows up in an apartment he's renting, and a dead woman's in there, and just kind of the investigation around it. A lot of fun, a lot of goofy stuff like that. See if there's anything else. One that I'll point out that I really liked, Memento, where Guy Pearce is going backwards trying to figure out all that stuff. That's one that I automatically think of. But as far as fun stuff, Clue's the one I always default to. But,
yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Go ahead and keep going.
All right. So, as you know, I love knives. I
do know that. Yes. You just popped one at the beginning of this show. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'm always carrying a knife. I've got several in my truck. I've got them clipped onto this bag. They're just so handy.
They're all over the place. Yeah.
And I mean, some of them are absolutely gorgeous. Some of them are works of art. And so I'm a big knife lover, but, so have you ever routinely carried a knife on your person?
No, I have not. Outside of like when I was a kid, I'd carry a pocket knife because there was a toothpick in it or there was tweezers, like never for the purposes of having a knife. Little Swiss Army. Like, but that was when I was younger, like a early teenager. Like since I've been an adult, it's just never been my thing. Like I've always been kind of more the white collar guy, and it didn't really suit me. Now, don't get me wrong, there's been a lot of times in my life, it's like, boy, it'd be nice to kind of have a knife just to pop it open and open a bag or open a box or cut something. I understand the practicality of it. It's just doesn't seem to suit me.
Yeah. Yeah, I kind of get it. It's always, I know at a lot of family get-togethers, like everyone's like,
it's vital for Christmas. It's vital. Yes.
Absolutely.
You better have if you have an X-Acto knife or a box. If you have a box cutter and just a couple box cutters for Christmas, great trick to have around the holidays. Absolutely.
Yeah, and some snippers and stuff.
Yes.
Because man, some of those plastic we'll be there before you know it.
Zip ties, by the way, the key to removing zip ties are fingernail clippers.
Yeah.
Yes.
Or take pliers and just
Yeah, exactly.
Pop them.
All
right. So tell me what knives you have.
So you kind of prepped me for this, and I had looked at my inventory in the house. I have a box cutter, a Lowe's box cutter, and every knife in the house is baking related. It is a butter knife or I looked for the most impressive knife I have, and I found a cool bread knife.
Ooh.
That's about the most, like, if somebody was coming in the house and I couldn't get to a gun, this is the one I'd grab, because this is like, man, this is gonna, like, there's even these forked edges. I was like, man, I can do something with this. Like, and not to mention, it just looks like it looks intimidating. I know this is not the way to hold knives as far as like if you're trying to attack a person.
Well, there's different ways.
But I mean, hopefully it's
how embarrassing would it be to get killed by a bread knife?
Well, I mean, it is this bread knife. I mean, you could really, like, It's thin. You could get it in there. Probably like
Yeah. If they sit still like a loaf of bread.
Yeah, I know. It's like I'm not like I can't slice that. I can't slice anybody. You're gonna go, ow, ow. What did that for? Like it's not something that's going to penetrate skin on a stab. You'd have to, yeah. So it's just like I said, it's all baking related. That was just the coolest one I had. So what's the coolest? What's do you have? So that one you had on you.
Yeah, so this is just a good utility knife. I mean, we don't have time for me to go through
Okay.
But yeah, this is just a good sturdy utility knife.
Yeah, okay.
Nice thick backbone on it.
Do you have a preference? We need a knife sponsorship, which I'm sure Jake would we're more than happy to pay us in actual knives. So do you have a brand preference?
It kind of depends. So this one is this is a Benchmade.
Okay.
Really great knives. I like Kershaw a whole bunch as far as a daily carry, as far as a folding pocket knife.
Okay.
There's and Sogs, sometimes Spyderco is man, they're great. There's one I have that's kind of my safe queen that is the most beautiful knife I've ever owned. It was a gift from our dad.
Yeah.
And this is like I only
so this is only bring out on fancy occasions.
Yeah, like I literally only wear it to like weddings.
Oh, it's such a Southern thing. I love it. See, this is great. I like you talking about it's the equivalent of being like, Ben, who's your favorite actress from the 50s? And I'm just like,
right.
Oh, I really like, and then just going into depth. And I know I can hear all the words you're saying. Just I'm like, oh, that's cool. Knives are pretty.
Yeah. No, but I would say as far as just daily carry, like, I mean, a lot of times, I mean, if I'm out
with your brand on it, by the way. Yeah.
Then that's fine. But I mean, if I'm, around town running errands or something, that's not necessarily practical. I don't want to scare everyone or
sure. like a biker gang with a big long
right.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. That makes sense.
So usually my daily carry is either a Kershaw or a Spyderco.
Okay. Makes sense. Well,
yep.
The more you know. Knife talk.
There you go.
We could add that to a weekly segment, and I could just sit here and listen.
Yeah. Next week we'll be launching a podcast called Knives.
Knives In.
Yeah. Knives In.
All right.
Let's see. Okay. So Harlan has this menagerie of knives.
Yes.
Kind of in this main room or whatever. Yeah. I don't really know how to describe it.
Or wherever it is. Yeah.
But
the climax of the film happens. Yeah.
Yeah. But he's got this menagerie of knives. So if you had to create a similar structure, a decorative structure of something that you really have an affinity for, what would it be? What would it be built out of? What would you create yours out of?
That's an exceptional question. So, the first thing I thought of is actual film, but the more I think, it was like, I don't like that. It kind of just looks like you have Kodaks stripped all over. It doesn't mean anything to the actual film. It would like if there's something where you could have like a big fake reel behind it, that'd be kind of cool. Maybe baseball bats, maybe not a bad idea. Or a series. Ooh, that's I think I like this better. Like a series of golf clubs, like sprayed around where essentially you could pull one out if you wanted to. Big golf fan, obviously. Something like that. That's a great question. I could put some thought into that one. Just because that is cool.
That would be cool if you could, especially if you did something like go get like a vintage set of
Yes.
golf clubs.
Yeah, like woods. Yeah, and have that would I agree. That would be pretty cool. There's the ideas are endless. I mean,
Yeah.
paint brushes, things like that, all sorts of stuff like that. So I get that. Yeah. So yeah. What about you?
Yeah. It'd be knives or
Probably
guns.
knives or guns. That makes sense. Okay.
Knives or guns, probably.
Okay.
So here in the past few years, talking on the subject of murder mysteries, something that's become popular, at least I know in my neck of the woods, is these murder mystery, like escape houses, or like you have to figure out the way out, or they put you in a clue scenario where you have to solve it. I've never done one. I could see how that'd be definitely fun.
Yes.
Have you ever done one of those?
It's funny. I've never done one in real life, but I've done a virtual escape room.
Okay.
During the pandemic, a group of us from our work were part of a work event. We did a virtual escape room, and we're all on Zoom, and the thing pops up, and this gives you the clues, and we're kind of talking out through it. And so you're like, well, is this an option? And this is option. And it kind of moves you on, because it can be, in that case, it'd be a lot more visceral, as opposed to being like, oh, you're in this room. How do you get out of this room? It's like, you're in this city, find the address. Sure. And it kind of opens up the world of it. I thought it was going to be lame. I thought it was actually kind of cool. Like, I'm taking notes.
It sounds pretty fun.
Yeah, I liked it. It's something I would do again. And I like the idea of escape rooms. I just think it seems like a lot of times escape rooms are kind of tacked on to something else.
Yes.
Like, it's not the thing. It's just kind of like, oh, I guess we got this room in the back that's also an escape room. Like, yeah.
And I will say it kind of seems like most of the ones that are around here are more like haunted house.
It's just scary. Scary. Yeah. I get you. I know what you mean.
Yeah. So we ought to find
one and actually do it.
Find a really good one, and me and my wife and you and yours, that would be a blast.
I agree. It should be. It's something like it's either going to be a lot of fun or break up one or both of our marriages.
Right. Either way,
it's possible.
Yeah. All right. Who out of this movie do you think delivers the best performance?
I think it's Ana de Armas. She is given the least enjoyable job to do.
Yeah.
And she delivers what needs to be done. In other words, if she doesn't take it as seriously as she is taking it, the rest of the movie kind of falls flat, and it doesn't
falls apart.
The plot falls apart. So, I mean, I always default to her. Outside of her, I would probably go to Christopher Plummer. He's so much fun. So
and he's subtle.
He doesn't do too much. Yes.
Yeah, but he delivers a lot with very little.
Yes. Basically. Yes. He's not in it very much, but I mean, his aura hangs over the whole thing. But yeah,
yeah. All right. Let's see. Do you like British Daniel Craig or a deep Southern accented Daniel Craig better? Because I love him in this.
I do too. I do too. And it's just because he's having so much fun. And it's like my favorite genre of film is any actor who's having an obvious blast making a movie. Like anybody who is just like, man, that like the first Hangover movie. One of the reasons that works so well is everybody's having a blast. It's like, it shouldn't be as fun as it is. And it's so fun because the cast is having fun, and that's infectious, and that gets to you. So I agree. The American version of him is much, much better. It's not much better. It's more, I understand it more, and it's more enjoyable.
Yeah. And it's just nice to see someone step out of their realm and nail it.
Yep, absolutely. He's still refined. he still seems like he knows more than you do. He's in no way physical in this movie. He doesn't fight anybody. That was probably the other thing. It's like he reads the scripts and go, I just have to sit here and I can sing Sondheim in a car. Like, yeah, cool. Okay, great.
Yeah, it's like I don't have to get into a violent altercation and fall out of a plane.
You're telling me I don't have to take my shirt off? Oh, okay, sure. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree. It's such a great role, and he does such a great job at it.
I agree.
Well, I think that's all I've got for you, buddy.
Thanks, buddy.
You're free to leave.
That was the Hot Box, sponsored by whatever knife company is going to reach out to us in the next weeks.
Kershaw, probably.
Kershaw. I will have Hot Box sponsored by Kershaw Knives. I'm all for it.
I'll never mention another knife brand again.
We can be bought.
Unless Spyderco wants in on it.
We have a bidding war here. I'm willing.
Yeah. I'm a free market agent.
Capitalism, baby. Okay, before we go, I wanted to so there's going to be another Knives Out movie, obviously, in a couple months. I would like you to fan cast another movie, a Knives Out movie. What I am going, a couple of weeks ago, I had the idea of I want a next Knives Out movie to be filled with actors who are great dramatic actors, but need to be shown having a good time, having a blast. Essentially, what Daniel Craig is doing. So I want like Viola Davis, Chiwetel Ejiofor, Sharon Stone, Michael Fassbender, Vera Farmiga, John Hawkes, and Riz Ahmed. But the kicker, I want Rachel Weisz to be in the movie, and I want her and Blanc to hate each other because she's married to Daniel Craig in real life. So,
is she really?
Yes. So I just love the idea of a husband and wife who have been married for a decade to be in a movie, just cannot stand each other. I love it so much. I love the idea of it. Is there anybody you just want to see in a movie having fun?
Jude Law.
Yes, that's a good one. Yeah, that's a good one. Like he always seems like he's doing a lot.
Yeah, like in Road to Perdition, he's obviously an
assassin. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A despicable character. And like Enemy at the Gates, very serious.
Yes.
With Rachel Weisz.
Rachel Weisz. Yes. Yeah. You think of these things like you think like Daniel Day-Lewis. You're like, yeah, he needs to have some fun, but you're just like, he's not going to do that. He's too serious.
Yeah. I actually thought about it, and I'd be like, he'd bring everyone down. Like,
it's like, man, Daniel's a real bummer.
Yeah.
Or see, the key is what you got to do is like, okay, Daniel, I want you to be in this movie, but in this movie, you're the happiest, nicest, infectious guy in the world, and go method in this, baby. And you have to really dig deep. And he's like, next thing you know, all he is just happy-go-lucky to the world because that's the role and that's how deep he digs.
That would be an interesting thing. Is like if a non-serious role.
Yes.
See
how he does on that.
I wonder how he would dig into a method like that.
So one of my favorite stories about Daniel Day-Lewis is during the filming of There Will Be Blood. The boy who plays Daniel Plainview's son, his mom was a little trepidatious about putting him in the movie. He's like, he's going to be in this movie, Daniel Day-Lewis. So she goes to the video store and she's like, I need a Daniel Day-Lewis movie. And they go, here's Gangs of New York. And so she watches Gangs of New York and goes, I can't do this at all. And the director goes, no. Go watch The Age of Innocence, where he's like a refined New York gentleman. And they're like, oh, okay. He's just a nut who just digs into this role. But at the same time, like, I do love the idea of, can you imagine Daniel Day-Lewis just being fun for 2 months?
Not really, but another DDL story, if you will.
Yeah, go ahead.
I heard when he was shooting There Will Be Blood, or no, I'm sorry.
Gangs of New York.
Gangs of New York.
Yes.
Who plays the priest in that?
Liam Neeson.
Yes. Okay. So Liam Neeson's in the local gym, just the closest gym there.
Yeah.
Getting a morning workout in. Daniel Day-Lewis walks in. He's in his gym clothes, and he's going out to just get a workout in.
Yeah.
And Liam's like, "Hey, Daniel, how you doing?" And he walks past me. He's like, "Hello, priest." Like,
can you imagine how terrifying it must be to be around Daniel Day-Lewis in character? Like, you're like, I am so scared of this man. Like, he's like, it's like nobody ever cast Daniel Day-Lewis as a heroin addict because he'll definitely shoot heroin.
yeah, that's not a good idea.
Yeah. So,
Yeah, you kind of have to watch out. Yeah.
There's a reason he's one of the best living actors.
I don't know how we got on a Daniel Day-Lewis.
At it part of the just,
That's what we do.
The scatter shot of what it is. You got anything else for us, buddy?
Man, I don't think so.
All right. Well, what is your film rating for Knives Out?
I really, really enjoy it. I really like the combination of seriousness with comedy. Like there's
I agree.
Comedy relief on a serious subject.
Yes.
And I like that combination. And it great acting, great performances, well shot. Yeah, I really, really recommend it.
And it also doesn't discount, like, it's not just like, oh, funny murder. It's like, no. It takes the murder very seriously. But but it's still, like you said, keeps all that funny tone. I really like Knives Out 2. I got 4.5 out of 5 stars. It's a great film. I think 2019 is a very great year for movies. I need to redo my list and everything to double check everything, but it's probably in the top 10. Really like all the movies from that year, though. So I think that just about does it for this episode of Film Critic the Common Man. Thank you so very much for joining us. You can follow me on Twitter at NebHasBeen, on Letterboxd at Neb810, on Instagram at Ben Miller Movies. Check out my website, icecreamforfreaks.com. Movies that are coming out. I cannot stop seeing these stinking movies. I got reviews of She Said and Bones and All coming out this week. New releases. She Said is about it's a spotlight type movie about the Weinstein investigations. That movie coming out this week. You can find me, my other writings on the Film Experience and Cinema Scholars. You can also find me on other pods. So I'm the David Thewlis of podcasting. Jake, where can the people find you in your creepy mansion in the middle of New England?
Yeah, probably. I'm inspired to create a whole menagerie, like we talked.
You're in your garage. This is what you're going to be doing. Just making a throne of knives.
I'll be busy, so don't try to get a hold of me.
Make sure to follow the podcast on Twitter at Critic Common Pod. Twitter is still around, everybody. Don't worry. I'll still be on there. The thing's still on there as well. Thanks to YouTube now. We youtube.com/@Critic Common Pod. You can get straight to our channel. Please like, subscribe, rate, and review. Enjoy the show wherever you get your podcast. We will catch you next time. Next week, we got another really good one. We got the oldest movie we got. I believe we got Paul Newman himself in Cool Hand Luke. Thank you so much, guys. We will catch you next week.
What's the trick in making my love stick? What's the trick?